In this video, we'll see a record broken in each World Cup, from the very first in 1930 all the way to 2022. But before going to the past, let's go to a crazy record broken in 2018.
Here comes Fahad, brilliantly saved!
The game was Egypt against Saudi Arabia, when both teams were already eliminated. Even so, this match entered history, cause the Egyptian keeper Essam El Haddadi broke the record for the oldest player ever in a World Cup. He was born in 1973, so he entered the field at 45 years old. For comparison, he's 3 years older than the Brazilian Ronaldo, the R9, and was already 21 when the 1994 World Cup took place. That's crazy. And that was just the first record. We'll see one that was broken in each of the 22 World Cups, from 1930 to Qatar 2022. The player with the most goals in a single World Cup, fastest goal, fastest red card, and much more. So since we talked about the oldest player, let's go to the oldest tournament, 1930. And there was a record that will never be broken. The World Cup with the least number of draws. For the only time ever, there were 0 draws. Every match had a winner, something that never happened again. But in the following World Cup, there was another record, the highest percentage of Europeans. 12 of the 16 countries were from Europe, 75%. So, for the only time in history, all countries in the quarterfinals were from Europe. It was an early UEFA hero. But now let's move on to the next one, that took place in 1938 in France. And there was a record that have not been broken till this day. The biggest defeat in the knockout stage. Everyone remembers Germany thrashing Brazil in 2014. But in the 1938 quarterfinals, Sweden faced Cuba and humiliated them. 8-0. It was 4 goals in the first half and 4 in the second. I don't know what's more impressive, the defeat or the fact that Cuba was in the quarterfinals. This wasn't the biggest defeat ever in a World Cup, but it was the biggest in the knockout stage. Later we'll see what was the biggest defeat ever, and it's unlikely, but that record set by Sweden might be broken someday. Now, the record that was set in the next cup, 1950, will never be broken. That was the first World Cup happening in Brazil, and at the end, the home team was just one match away from being champions. So, in the final match against Uruguay, the newly inaugurated Maracanã Stadium was packed, making it the most attended match ever.
200,000 people, the largest crowd in football history, came to the Maracanã that day.
Officially, 173,000 people attended the match, but it's estimated that the actual number reached 200,000. For comparison, it's more than twice the attendance of the 2022 final. But all this ended with Uruguay winning the game, one of the biggest tragedies for Brazil. So now, let's go to the next World Cup, in 1954. In that year, Hungary broke a record that's almost impossible to repeat. The most goals in a single World Cup. With Ferenc Puskás, the guy who inspired the Puskás Award, Hungary became a goal-scoring machine. South Korea was the first victim, losing 9-0. Then in the second game against Germany, guess what? Hungary won 8-3. 4 goals by Sandro Coxes. Then they went to the quarterfinals, beat Brazil 4-2, Uruguay 4-2 as well, and reached the final. That was against the same Germany they had humiliated before. So they started in the best possible way.
Nachschuss, Puskás, Tor! Glück für Deutschland und jetzt Tor! Tor!
With those goals, Hungary extended their record. That was their goal number 26 and 27. Yes, 27 scored in 5 matches, an average of 5.4 per game. So the title was theirs. But when everyone didn't expect, Germany turned it around to 3-2. A win so surprising that became known as the Miracle of Bern. So Hungary ended as runner-up with 27 goals scored. For comparison, Argentina in 2022 scored 15 and France in 2018 scored 14. That's crazy. But if that was surprising, in the next World Cup, there was an even more impressive record. The player with the most goals in a single World Cup. If you think that Mbappe scoring 8 goals in 2022 was a good achievement, it doesn't even come close to what Just Fontaine did in 1958. For France in 1958, the striker had the perfect World Cup. Just in the group stage, he scored 6 goals. Then in the quarterfinals he scored other 2 against Northern Ireland, 1 against Brazil, and in a third place playoff against Germany he netted 4 goals.
And just before the end, Fontaine gets his 13th goal. 6-3 the result, and now the whole world knows the name of Just Fontaine.
Fontaine finished the World Cup with 13 goals in 6 matches. With only 1 edition played, he is still the 4th top scorer in World Cup history alongside Messi. And talking about goals, in the next World Cup there was the opposite record, the top scorer with the fewest goals. In 1962, Just Fontaine didn't play, so without him, the top scorer title was shared by 6 players: Garrincha, Vavá, Sanchez, Albert, Ivanov and Djurkovic. Each of them became the top scorer by only scoring 4 goals. So in 1962, there was the record of the top scorer with the fewest goals. But now we arrive at the 1966 World Cup, hosted in England. This was a legendary one, and besides the English players who won their first and only title, another player that entered history was the Mexican keeper Antonio Carvajal, cause he became the first ever player to appear in 5 World Cups. He was Mexico's keeper in 1950, 54, 58, 62, and finally in 1966. This record was later matched by others, but he was the first to achieve this. But now, after 1966, we arrive at the 1970 World Cup, hosted in Mexico. And it was this year that an almost impossible record was broken. The player with the most titles.
First time delivery, Pele!
Pele won in 1958, 1962, and in 1970 had a perfect performance. 6 goals and 4 assists, leading Brazil to the grand final and defeating Italy by 4-1. Including 1 goal and 2 assists in the final. So in 1970, he won his 3rd World Cup and remains till this day the biggest winner ever. Impressive. So let's fast forward 4 years and arrive in 1974, which had a legendary team, Johan Cruyff's Netherlands. That team was so good that they advanced to the last match and broke a record. The fastest goal in the final.
To come onto them, and Cruyff goes down!
The match was Cruyff's Netherlands against Germany, 2 giant teams. Then, in the very first minute of the game, Cruyff suffered a penalty.
The correct one! Johan Neeskens fires the ball home!
So, in just 90 seconds, the Netherlands scored the opener, making it the fastest goal in the final. But just like it happened to Hungary, Germany turned the game around.
End of the game, and West Germany have won the World Cup.
So, after 74, we arrive in 1978, hosted in Argentina. And that year, the Netherlands broke a record. The most consecutive finals lost. Yeah, after they lost to Germany in 1974, in 1978 they reached the final again. But against Argentina, they had a very tough match that went to extra time 1-1. Then in the extra time, the home team scored twice to finish it 3-1. For the 2nd time in a row, the Netherlands was runner-up. At least in the following years, Germany also lost 2 finals in a row and tied the record. But no one surpassed it yet. But now, after 1978, we arrive at the 1982 World Cup that had a record impossible to break.
It's Neil Archie, what a start!
In the first match of the group stage, Hungary faced El Salvador. That was the weakest team made by players who played in the El Salvador League. So on a Tuesday night, Hungary's goals gave them another record.
Great chance now for Poloska to make it 2, and he does. Tries the long shot, and what a goal! Still the cross in, and that is a goal from an amazing angle. And tries the shot and scores.
El Salvador even managed to score a consolation goal, but the Hungarians just kept scoring.
Oh, scores the goal. And amazingly enough, and that is, now this must open up the chance for the header from Nielam, 10-1.
10-1, the biggest defeat in World Cup history. At least El Salvador can say they have a record. Now let's go to a record broken 4 years later, in 1986.
And there is a red card. He's off. Oh, what a start.
This red card broke a record, cause it was given in only 56 seconds. Yeah, in Uruguay versus Scotland in the group stage, the Uruguayan defender committed a heavy foul in less than a minute, so the referee didn't hesitate and sent him off. The fastest red card in World Cup history. The players weren't even sweating yet. And after 1986, we arrive in Italy for the 1990 World Cup. And the home team set a record that still hasn't been broken. The most minutes without conceding a goal. Italy in 1990 had a very strong defense, with none other than Baresi, Ferri and Paolo Maldini. Also the keeper Zenga. They were one of the top favorites and had a perfect group stage. 3 wins in 3 games without conceding a goal. Then they went to the round of 16, defeated Uruguay 2-0, and in the quarterfinals defeated Ireland 1-0. Italy won 5 consecutive matches without conceding a goal. But in the semifinals, they faced none other than Maradona's Argentina. So in the second half,
Into the box this time, Canisius there with the back header, and it's a goal!
Italy was winning but conceded the equalizer. And it was fatal because the match went to penalties and the home team was eliminated. Italy was out, but had an impressive record of 517 minutes without conceding a goal. Over 8 hours. That's crazy. And another record that has never been broken is the player with the most goals in a single game. That happened in 1994. For the first time, Russia was playing as Russia. But as we saw in the video of the heaviest defeats in the World Cup, they had a very poor group stage, losing the first 2 games. So they went to the last match against the also eliminated Cameroon, and the striker Oleg Salenko made history. At that moment, he already had a hat-trick, but he didn't stop. Oleg Salenko didn't score 3, not 4, but 5 goals. For the first and only time ever, a player scored 5 goals in a World Cup match, ending 6-1. And speaking of goals, 4 years later, in 1998, France had a defense almost as good as Italy in 1990. But instead of Italy, they won, becoming the champion with the fewest goals conceded. With the keeper Barthez and players like Desailly, Thuram, Zidane and others, France played the World Cup at home and had an amazing campaign. In 7 games, they scored 15 goals and conceded only 2. No champion had ever conceded so few goals. In 2006 and 2010, this record was tied by Italy and Spain, but France was the first. That was the best French team ever. And after 1998, we arrive in 2002, that had this record.
Myungbo's in trouble here. It's Hakan Şükür. It's one of the early World Cup goals of all time.
Looks like just a normal goal, but it happened only 11 seconds after the whistle. The match was Turkey versus South Korea in a 3rd place playoff, and the striker Hakan Şükür broke a record by scoring the fastest goal in World Cup history. 11 seconds. Very hard to beat this. Now let's move on to 2006, that had a team being eliminated without conceding a single goal. Imagine a team with such a strong defense that didn't concede a single goal but still got eliminated. That team was Switzerland, which in the first group stage match drew with France. The Swiss keeper Pascal Zuber-Buller played very well. Then in the next games, they beat Togo and South Korea 2-0. A good campaign, and they went to the round of 16, where they faced Ukraine. But if the defense was strong, the attack couldn't be effective. It ended 0-0. So the match went to penalties. And this time, the keeper Zuber-Buller was beaten. He conceded 3 goals and Switzerland didn't score, so they were eliminated. Switzerland said goodbye to the 2006 World Cup with 4 goals scored and none conceded. And talking about goals, the next World Cup had a record that I don't know if was good or bad. The champion with the fewest goals scored. To win the title, you might think that it needs a lot of goals, right? Well, not for Spain, because they won the World Cup scoring only 8 goals. The entire Spanish team in 2010 scored the same number of goals as Mbappe in 2022. In the group stage, they even lost the first match, but defeated Honduras 2-0, Chile 2-1, and the knockout stage was a 1-0 sequence. 1-0 over Portugal, 1-0 over Paraguay, 1-0 over Germany, and in the final, yes, 1-0 over the Netherlands. In total, Spain scored 8 goals and conceded 2, finishing as the champion with the worst attack. Germany, that finished 3rd, scored 16 goals, nearly double the amount. But hey, what matters is the title. And talking about Germany, in the next World Cup, they broke a record, or at least helped Brazil to break the record for the biggest defeat of a home team. Hosting a World Cup is an honor and can also be an advantage. Being in its own stadium can make a team play better. But on July 8, 2014, Brazil suffered the worst defeat in its history.
Got through! Germany scored! Real trouble! They're in another one here! It's all over now! Queuing up! They're all going to score at this rate!
It was a World Cup semi-final. Everybody thought it would be a very tight match. But in the first half, Germany humiliated Brazil.
Into Lahm. Square. 6-0 it is. But they might have number 7 here now. They have got 7.
In the end, Brazil scored a consolation goal to finish it 7-1. The record of the biggest defeat of a home team happened when no one would ever imagine. In the year the biggest winner hosted it. Now after 2014, we arrive at a 2018 World Cup, where the keeper Essam El Haddadi broke the record for the oldest player ever. All these World Cups were amazing, but the craziest one was 2022. So much that there were lots of records broken. In the first round, Portugal faced Ghana and Ronaldo broke one of these.
It's Ronaldo, it's 1-0 Portugal, and it's a moment of World Cup history.
It was just a penalty goal, but he became the only player ever to score in 5 World Cups. He scored in 2006, 2010, 2014, 2018 and 2022. And Messi did almost the same thing, but this time with assists. He gave at least one assist from 2006 to 2022. The World Cup was so good that it had a record for itself, the edition with the most goals. From the first group stage match all the way to the final, there were 173 goals, 2.7 per game. It was truly amazing. And if you enjoyed this video, check out this other one that I posted. So thank you and bye.